Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Binda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Tulsi Priya has her hand up. I think she needs to be made the co-host. I've been recording to my computer just so she knows. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Purnamansa Pariprajaka Charja Stotra Satashi Shrimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi, Gaur Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath, Shama Kun Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai, Navadip Tham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamana Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktavrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol. Welcome to all, especially welcome to now. Who is that? Dukantri. Welcome to Dukantri. Mataji. Irene Jellybean. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Shaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachadeshatanane Vansha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripasindho Bhyevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Again, welcome to all on this Nityananda Trayodashi, auspicious appearance day of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. And I wonder what topics are on your mind this evening.
Well, if I could start things off, I was thinking about how today is Nityananda Trayodasi. We were reading a little bit from the very long chapter in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, The Glories of Nityananda Balaram. A lot of technical information there. And just from the beginning verses, the impression that Prabhupada was making upon me was that Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his first expansion is Balaram. And then it seems that from Balaram comes everything else, all of the Purusha avatars. He maintains both the material and the spiritual worlds. The holy dhams of Krishna are all manifestations of Balaram's potency, all of Krishna's paraphernalia. It was something that had never occurred to me before, how Krishna alone is the one original supreme. He expands himself as Balaram, and from Balaram comes everything else. And I was wondering if that's something that you'd care to comment on, having much more knowledge than me.
Well, I don't know that I have more knowledge, but yes, it's striking. Ramadi Murti Shukala Niyamena Tishtan, from Lord Balaram. All the other expansions proceed. Not only the expansions, the whole spiritual world, the whole establishment is expanded from Lord Balaram. That's in Brahma Samhita, in like one of the first verses. Let's see where that is. First you have to find Brahma Samhita, then you find the verse. Sahasra Patra, like, let's see. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Yeah. Sahasrapatra Kamalam Gokulakyam Mahatpadam Tadkarnikaram Tadtama Tadanantanksha Sambhavam. Tadanantanksha, from the part of Lord Balaram, from the part of Lord Balaram, the whole Goloka Vrindavan, the whole Gokula is manifest, the whole lotus planet of which is the abode of Lord Krishna, is manifest from Balaram. Tadanantanksha Sambhavam. So the whole spiritual world and all the incarnations, all the expansions, all from Lord Balaram. And that Lord Balaram is identified as being identical with Nityananda Prabhu. Something more on this or other topics?
Well, along with that goes the is it Natasyakaryam Charanam to Vidyate, that Krishna himself has nothing to do. So it seems to make sense that he himself just is engaged in his pastimes and does whatever he likes. And when he needs to do something important, like manifest a material world or keep everything else in the spiritual world going, he's got his people, taking care of that.
Even Lord Balaram offloads all that. He expands further expansions to accomplish that.
Yeah.
So Natasya Karyam Karanam Vidyate. He really has nothing to do. By the way, if you enter the conference with your phone number, it takes longer for the host to decide whether or not to let you in. It's better if you use a name.
Are you referring to me, Maharaj? Because my internet went out and I just.
Not you. You entered with your name, but there's
Okay.
the 619 number, and
Okay.
one doesn't know. Is that somebody we know or somebody we don't know?
Could you add me to co-hosting again?
Excuse me?
Can you make her a co-host
I'll
again?
make
Could
you a
you
co-host
allow
again.
me to record again?
Sure.
Kumar Mukunda Charna Das. My phone's I don't have that option.
Oh, your phone doesn't have that option. Okay, so we just have to remember 619,
Okay.
717, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, good. Well, welcome, Mukunda Charna. It's fine that you have a feature phone, I know, so that's good. All right, welcome.
Thank you.
And what else do we have going on? Oh, and but we have to mute you.
Muted. And until someone else comes in, I had another question about Nityananda Prabhu.
Sure.
That from the description, at least in that early part of the Glories of Nityananda Balaram chapter I was reading, it talks about how the Krishna Loka or Goloka is divided into three. There's Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka.
You're a little low there, Makendra Prabhu. Maybe
Okay.
you get some more closer to the microphone or something.
Sorry about that.
No, much better.
So the verse I was reading was talking about how Krishna's planet is divided into three segments. There's Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka. What I didn't find mentioned there, and what I had somehow understood from elsewhere, I can't remember where, is that there is a portion of Krishna Loka that is devoted to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his pastimes also eternally in the spiritual world. And that I must say, I really know very little about.
That's, we find in the commentary of Brahma Samhita again, that there's a quadrangular area where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also has his abode, Krishna has his abode, and Mahaprabhu has his abode. So that's also found there. The geography must be quite a bit more complex than we can envision. How exactly the spiritual world works must be quite something. I can tell one Prabhupada story, that I was on a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada and some devotees near the, as I recall, near the Govindaji Mandir in Vrindavan. No, maybe it was near the Ranganath Mandir, Govindaji Mandir, down sort of that direction. And some devotees had been reading a book which poses a question. And the question was that we read that Krishna, in the morning he's in, one place, and later, a couple hours later, he's in another place. He's on the banks of the Jamuna, then he's over at Govardhan, then he's over at Varshan, he's here, he's there. And these are places which we know are quite distant. It would take you to get from, say, Ramanreti to Govardhan takes you, 20 minutes by car? So then the author raised the question that how is it that Krishna is traversing such large distances in the course of a day? And then he gives the answer that Goloka Vrindavan is and this is from our Acharyas, that Vrindavan is like a lotus. And as a lotus, when a lotus unfurls, then the leaves, the tips of the leaves or the tips of the petals are quite far away from one another. But when the lotus closes, then the tips of the petals come in contact with one another. So he says, in this way, Goloka Vrindavan opens and closes and facilitates Krishna's moving from one area of Vrindavan, one part of Vrindavan to another. So some devotees were on the walk and they raised this question, Srila Prabhupada, that we see that Krishna is sometimes at the Jamuna, and sometimes he's at Govardhan Hills, sometimes he's in this area, sometimes he's in that area, and these areas are very far away from one another. So how is it that Krishna can traverse these great distances? And they're sort of looking for confirmation. How is it that he can traverse these large distances? And Prabhupada said, he takes very big steps.
Uru Krama.
Praveen like that. Okay.
Athena has a question in the chat box. I can read it to you if you like.
Sure.
She says,
Well, I can also
she
call
says,
it up here.
so for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, do we go to Krishna's abode or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's abode as we follow both?
Well, there's a bit of, I said the spiritual world wasn't so simple. You can go to both. One is not limited. How it is that one can be in both places at once, but it's possible. We hear from Bhagavatam that Krishna was on tour with a group of sages, and while he was touring, he got two invitations. One was from a great king named Bahulashva, and another was from a simple Brahmin devotee. Who was that? Brahmin's name? I'll be reminded. Shrutadev. So he gets one invitation from Shrutadev, another invitation from Bahulashva. And so it's not a big problem. He just expands himself in two and accepts both invitations. And the sages also expanded themselves in two. So both parties went to went to both places. So such expansion is possible. And each party, Shrutadev and Bahulashva, was each thinking that Krishna's come to our side. He's accepted my invitation. And then it gets more complicated. The acharyas say that there was like another level at which each of them was thinking, oh, Krishna accepted the other invitation. So they were feeling separation. So these things do get quite complex. But in short, you wouldn't miss out on anything. Now let's see if there's something else in the chat box that I'm missing out of. No. Okay, we're good for now. Praveen says there are many Brahmandas in the Mahatattva. Krishna is performing pastimes in many Brahmandas. That would mean his associates also expand into unlimited expansions to join Krishna? Yes. So Arjuna, for example, is traveling with Krishna from universe to universe. And as soon as Bhagavad Gita is finished in this universe, it's starting in another universe. And not only that, but while Krishna's in the middle of it here, he's just past the middle of it in another universe as the sun is moving, so that it's 1201 here and it's 101 in the next zone. So in that way, Krishna's pastimes are progressively moving from universe to universe, and the devotees also are taking part. So how, when it's said that Krishna's achintya, inconceivable, it's really intended. It's not just that it's an exaggeration. Now I see there's a 1 and a hand. That's weird because it's not next to anybody's name.
Well,
That would be me.
Yep.
That's you. Okay, there you are.
That's weird. So there's a hand, but no person, no picture?
Yeah,
We see
that's
your
under
hand.
Okay.
participants. I guess that's just to make,
Huh.
to emphasize that not everything is within our understanding. I can't even understand how Zoom works, what to speak of the spiritual sky. I believe in
Yeah,
Canto.
maybe it's because I'm a co-host.
Again, these things are inconceivable. No one can understand.
Well, speaking of inconceivable, just like the Lord's pastimes, and I guess this is included in his pastimes since we're discussing him here. So we were having this discussion, my husband and I, a few weeks ago, because, and I think what you're saying is how I was remembering it, and my husband was saying, no, it's not like that. It's like he does his pastimes in one universe, then moves on to the next universe. But you are saying, as soon as he speaks the Bhagavad Gita, here he's also simultaneously. So my question is after he's done speaking it here, he's still here.
Yes.
Except he's finished speaking the Bhagavad Gita. So he's here simultaneously and in another universe, not exactly simultaneously, but post recitation of the Gita. And so and since there are unlimited universes, it's mind-boggling.
Yes.
I'm having, I don't know I'm not mathematical at all, but I'm just having this image, which is very popular in the New Age circles of fractals. You see, patterns that resemble each other, but they're all going out in different directions. And I'm getting a headache. But you're saying literally that it's that he speaks the Gita here, and then he's speaking Gita sequentially in other universes while still remaining in those universes, and the pastimes are going on in their sequence.
Yeah, well, he's speaking 9th chapter here, he's speaking 10th chapter someplace else, and 8th chapter in a third place.
That's painful it's really literally hurts to think about.
Yeah, these things are not within our normal limits. But that's how Krishna's working.
It's a small wonder. Yeah, it's a small wonder Arjuna asked Krishna to put away the universal form.
Yeah, but even the sun probably gives that example always. That's essentially what it's doing. We have time zones where everything, moves ahead by an hour, but that's just for our convenience. That's just for our convenience. And in countries that are big, sometimes, the sun, it's all within 1 hour, but on the east side, it's quite a bit further over than it is on the west side, and so on. So it's doing the same thing. It's not that it goes from time zone to time zone. It's always an inch ahead, in place to place. So Krishna even more so. And yes, it's mind-boggling. Okay, we have some more questions here. Thank you. Tina says, I believe in Canto 1 purport, it says that the spirit soul can also expand and travel to universe. That is a characteristic of the soul. I'm not sure where you were reading. Generally, the soul doesn't do that. He travels, he's in one place at a time. As conditioned souls, we are here, but we're not in the next place. even the yogis, when they travel, it's usually that they move from one place to another, not that they expand themselves into many, although they do have that potency to a limited degree. But by spiritual potency, those sages and expanded into two, or they can expand into more forms as required for the Lord's service. I hope that's okay. Chaitanya Bhava says, I wanted to understand the term Leela. In one lecture, Srila Prabhupada says, Leela refers to the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But then we also talk about Prabhupada Leela, Leelamrita, and so on. So whom can we use the term Leela for? That's a good question. Generally, Leela is taken to mean the activities of Krishna. But then Krishna, with Radha Krishna Leela, so Radharani gets included. And then Krishna's Leela includes his devotees in the spiritual world. So the Nanda and Yashoda are included in the Leela. The cowherd boys are taking part in these Leelas. Govardhan is included in the Leelas. So then the term expands. Krishna means, Srila Prabhupada says in one place, Krishna and his devotees. So then Leela. And then we do hear Leela being used in relationship to the prominent devotees of the Lord, advanced devotees of the Lord in this world. Even in Gaudiya Math, I think it's sort of customary to speak of, to say something like, Srila Prabhupada was performing the pastime of having a headache, or Srila Prabhupada was performing the pastime of resting at the time. So everything is sort of framed as a pastime to emphasize the distinction between a conditioned soul and a liberated soul. In ISKCON, we usually don't follow that convention so closely, but we do have Prabhupada Leelamrita, Prabhupada Leela, pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, and used more broadly. So it is used for advanced devotees also, customarily. I hope that's okay.
Thank you, Mother.
Tina has a couple of questions, and there are two new messages. Okay, well, let's see. Sankarshan says, I never heard of Lord Chaitanya having an abode as in the spiritual world. I thought he just came to the material world on a mission to save souls and experience the bliss that Radharani does. But I believe, and someone can look up the exact reference in the Brahma Samhita, and it would probably be perhaps in that same, in the area of that same second verse or something like that. It is mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there. Let's see if I see it right away. I may not, because these things are not so spottable right away. First thing, no, it's not, I don't see it right there. Yeah, hexagonal figure with 6 divisions. Give me a moment. These things get quite dense. But my recollection is that these things are described in Brahma Samhita, at least in the purport. Oh. Srila Thakur Vrindavan, the manifest Vyas of Chaitanya Lila, has described the village of Navadvip as bearing the name of Svetadvip. In the Svetadvip, the concluding portions of the pastimes of Gokula exist eternally as the pastimes of Navadvip. Hence, the region of Navadvip, Braja, and the realm of Goloka are one and the same indivisible entity. The difference only lies in the manifestations of the infinite variety of sentiments corresponding to the diverse nature of their devotional love. And then we hear Gauda Mandala Bhumi, Jevajane Chintamani, Tarhoy Brajabhumi Vas. That there's no difference between the Brajabhumi, between Goloka Vrindavan, between Vrindavan and Navadvip. They're the same place. Gauda Mandala Bhumi, Jevajane Chintamani, Tarhoy Brajabhumi Vas. So the same Radha Krishna are present in different ways. And it's the same place, but it's manifested differently. Oh yeah, here we go. The pure devotees, okay, here's the devotees who are imbued with all love and who walk in the footsteps of the spiritual maids of Vrindavan, that is the gopis, alone attain to the realm of Goloka. The different locations of the devotees in Goloka, according to the respective differences in the nature of their rasa, that is, mellow quality, are settled by the inconceivable power of Krishna. So Krishna decides where everybody's going to be located. The pure devotees following the devotees of Braja and those following the pure devotees of Navadvip are located in the realm of Krishna and Gauda, respectively. The identical devotees of Braja and Navadvip simultaneously attain to the pleasures of service in the realm of Krishna and Gauda. Sri Jiva Goswami writes in his work Gopal Champu that the supreme transcendental realm is called Goloka, being the abode of Go, transcendental cows, and Gopa, transcendental cowherds. This is the seed of the rasa pastimes of the absolute Sri Krishna. Again, the realm is called Svetadvip, owing to the realization of some of the rasas, which are the inconceivable manifestation derived from the untouched purity of that supreme realm. The twofold entities of the supreme Goloka and the supreme Svetadvip are indivisibly the realm of Goloka. So this is quite something. And it gets more just as Sri Krishna had his birth in the mundane Gokula through the agency of Yogamaya, so with her help he manifests the Leela of his birth in Navadvip on this mundane plane. These are the absolute truths of spiritual science and not the outcome of imaginary speculation under the thraldom of the deluding energy of Godhead. So all of this is discussed in Brahma Samhita purport in the purport to text 5. It gets quite deep, quite thick, one might say. So this is, I'll leave it to you to read further, but the sum and substance seems to be, first it said that by worshiping Lord Chaitanya or worshiping Krishna, going through their associates, one attains their respective abodes. And then it seems to say, well, there's no difference. So the identical devotees attain both places. So I'll let you puzzle over it. I'll tell you another Prabhupada story. In 1968, 9, around there, Srila Prabhupada held a meeting of his editors and for BTG. And he was staying in a little suburb somewhere outside of Boston. It was winter and it was snowy. And I remember we were going through this endless car ride through all these hills and dales in the wintertime. We got to Prabhupada's place. Then we had this meeting. There was kirtan, and then Prabhupada had some discussion with the editors, and there were some other devotees there. And Pradumna, I believe it was, asked if we could publish Brahma Samhita in Back to Godhead. And Prabhupada thought about it, and then he accepted that it could be published in small portions. And he said, it will puzzle their brains. It will puzzle their brains. And then he went on to speak about his meeting with his Guru Maharaj. He said that his Guru Maharaj used to speak from the highest elevated platform. Prabhupada said, even when he would speak in Bengali, he said, I could not understand. He said, but I'd like to hear, that's all. And Guru Maharaj noted it, that this boy likes to hear. And he said, because he was enthusiastic about hearing, now he's enthusiastic about preaching. There's more to it, but I'll leave you with that. It will puzzle their brains. That was the relevant section. Let's see, then there's, I missed a couple of things in the chat box. Tina says, but as an example, Srila Prabhupada can come to his disciples in dreams, but he's simultaneously in the spiritual world with Krishna. Yes, so these things are possible. On the spiritual platform, the limits imposed by the material energy have no meaning. Guru Das says to me, I guess he means for everyone, your discussion of Leela just now, is it a correct understanding that Leela implies conscious choice? In other words, Krishna Leela means, this jumping chat box drives me nuts. Krishna Leela means he is consciously choosing to go from activity to activity with a purpose. He chooses to dance with the gopis or fight with a demon. Whatever he does is Leela. He's choosing moment to moment. Yes, Leela means that he can do as he likes. That's the thing. We get these Mayavadi incarnations of God, and they try to say that we're all God, but what we're going through now is our Leela. You know, if you're sitting in the dentist's chair and suffering through a painful extraction or something, that's Leela. That's just Brahman's Leela. That's all rubbish. Leela means the voluntary play of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's like when we're being slapped around by the material energy and forced to accept material circumstances one after another. That's not Leela, that's imprisonment. So yes, Leela means voluntary. Prabhin says there are some pastimes of Prabhupada of his mystic actions. Once walking on the beach, disciples could not see the footprints of Prabhupada, although everyone had footprints. How to see this? Well, tell you the truth, I see these things sometimes with a bit of skepticism. It's wonderful to hear about these, mystical events, but I'm not quite sure about them. The devotees say, yes, he wasn't touching the ground, or I saw him float, or whatever it is. Yeah, maybe, but maybe not, because disciples can become a little enthusiastic. Certainly possible, what if Krishna desired. But the real thing is that Prabhupada didn't give importance to such things. It's not that Prabhupada, that his divinity depended upon whether he could walk on water, or whether his feet made prints on the beach, or whether some other miraculous events could happen. The real Prabhupada said, my real miracle is just see, I've made all these lechas into Vaishnavas. That's the miracle. That's the miracle. So just like Rupa Goswami, he doesn't give much importance to these ashtasattvic vikars, these transcendental manifestations of dramatic emotional changes. He gives more, because those can be imitated, those can be faked, but he gives more importance to Namagana Sadaruchi, constant taste for hearing about Krishna, avyarta kala tvam, not wanting to waste a moment of time, detachment, bhaktir prasyanubhava viraktiranyatra. These are the real things. The Prabhupada had thousands of women as disciples. He wasn't attracted to any of them. So these, we see so many Mayavadi Swamis, and the same could not be said about them. They fall down with their female shishas. So I look at it as one with a little bit of skepticism, because devotees can exaggerate and be sentimental, or be, so many things can capture the mind. I look at it and say, well, maybe, but maybe not. And on the other side, I look at it and say, and who cares anyway? That's not really Prabhupada's glory. If what did your guru do when he came to this world? Oh, he walked on Juhu Beach without making footprints. Well, that's nothing. But he traveled at old age, left Vrindavan and came to America, then started with nothing, and then spread the Krishna consciousness all over the world. Now that's miraculous. That's miraculous. And that's possible by Krishna's arrangement, because Arjuna admitted that I was able to fight against so many opposing parties who were like timming fish in the ocean of Kurukshetra. And I was successful only by Krishna's blessings. So I'll come to Sankarshan, then Tulsi Priya has her hand up. We hear about the same personalities appearing in both Chaitanya and Krishna Leelas. So that seems to transcend material limitations. Yes, that also. Of being in material or spiritual worlds, yeah, they're able to do these wonderful things. Tulsi Priya.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj, thank you. So I was just wondering, would it be more correct to say, because we often refer to Prabhupada's activities in this world as Leela, but Prabhupada wasn't literally in control of every aspect of what was happening, although he did come by his own free will in service to Krishna. So would it be more correct to say that the Leela is actually Krishna's Leela and Prabhupada was the instrument of that Leela, or am I being too particular about it?
I think words are defined by how they're used. And, that's what the conventions of, that's what determines what a word is, how we use it. And my understanding is that this word Leela is used for the activities of exceptional devotees, pure devotees. The pure devotee, of course, everything is Krishna's Leela, ultimately. That he's lying down as Mahavishnu and dreaming, and then his dream is our world. So, but it's not that Krishna makes everything happen. The living entity makes a contribution. He has his free choice. He has his own contribution to the matter. It's not that Krishna is just manipulating or but what is Savadaki Jnana Balakriyacha, his potencies are acting independently. So the living entities are acting independently. Some of them are choosing to try to exploit the material energy, and some of them are choosing to come under the shelter of the spiritual energy. Then once they come under the spiritual energy, then they make further choices. I want to serve this way, I want to serve that way, according to their feeling for Krishna. So that's, or in this material world, they want to serve in a particular way. So it seems that this word Leela is used that way. We know that everything's finally Krishna's Leela. Vasudeva Sarvam Iti, Krishna is everything. But within Krishna, there's so many energies, including the living entities. Follow up, yeah.
Would it be correct to, I'm not sure if this came out of my own fertile brain or if I read it somewhere, but my understanding is that like the things that the Goswamis wrote, are referred to as Leelas, like Lalita Madhava, and they're, in the form of dramas. And so from that, I've sort of gotten the idea that a lot of things that happen, like you say, it's all Krishna's Leela, that they're sort of like dramas. And as in a drama, you have some people who are the stars and other people who are extras. And even, let's say in the case of a movie, there are some people who might be part of the action who don't even realize they're part of the action. They're just part of the background of a crowd scene or something like that. Is that a faulty way of thinking of Krishna's Leela, that it's sort of like a drama being played out and he's the director?
Well, even then, Yogamaya is the director.
Right, yes, of course.
Sometimes even Krishna seems to get bewildered.
Yeah.
He's and he genuinely feels that. He genuinely becomes afraid that Yashoda Ma is going to punish me. It's not that he's just putting on an act, he actually feels that way. So this is Yogamaya's influence. Even Krishna becomes, what would you say, caught up in these dramas. Okay, I see that Tina has her hand up again.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj Dandavats. My questions actually relate to discussion around the Leelas. And earlier this week, we had discussed that it's possibly understood that it is the same eternal associates playing the same roles in Krishna's
Same
Leela.
eternal what?
Eternal associates playing the same roles in Krishna's Leelas. But I thought it was that when one has perfected his or her life, or when one's life, and before going back to Godhead, one is retrained up in one of Krishna's Leelas. But if all of those roles are already taken by his eternal associates or others who play the same role every time, then where is the space for previous jivas who are bound, who are now need to play in Krishna's leelas before they go back to Godhead.
Yes, these are important points. It's important to understand that we're not aspiring to become like Yashoda Mai or Nanda Maharaj or Subal or Sridama. These positions eternally belong to those associates. And it's not that, well, all right, let me go to another planet where I can be Nanda Yashoda, or I can be Subal, or I can be Sridam, or I can be Champaklata or something like that. Those positions eternally belong to those devotees. But the path is to follow in the footsteps of those devotees and to serve in the same mood as those devotees, to assist in the pastimes of those devotees. That's and for that there's unlimited accommodation in the spiritual world. It's not that Krishna says, well, sorry, that spot's already taken, there's no more. We ran out of spots on, like the COVID vaccine, well, we already distributed the whole shipment, so you'll have to wait. There's no shortage in the spiritual world, but the positions or the services that the devotees take up are not to occupy the position of these devotees that we read about, but it's to become servants in the same mood, following in their footsteps. Yes. Otherwise, it's considered Mayavad, like wanting to become one with Krishna. So wanting to become Nanda Maharaj or Yashoda Mai, that's not possible. I don't think you were suggesting that, but I'm just taking the opportunity to make that point.
Thank you. But I wanted to clarify my understanding then. But don't, if one perfects this life, don't we participate? Are you saying we just, maybe, for example, the Bali Maharaj and Vaman Dev Leela, we take up a servant in the court when that in Bali Maharaj's court? Are you saying that is how one participates in the Leelas before in the material world to get trained up before going back to Godhead? I'm just unclear about my understanding. Thought that we would play some of these roles, not trying to take the position of, say, Nanda and Yashoda, but we have to be trained up so we know, I guess, properly as we reassume our Sarup and our eternal position, that we do play in his Leelas in the material world. But if we don't take those positions, can you further explain, for example, the role that we would take? And is it the example that I gave, just for example, being somehow in Bali Maharaj's court or ministers in that Leela?
No, I can't. This is postgraduate. You'll find out, like on the first day of school, you'll find out what the lesson plan is. I can't give you an advance on that exactly, what kind of training you'll get and what position. But the role is called Raganuga. There's Ragatmika, which is the position of the devotees who are directly the associates of Krishna in the spiritual world, and Raganuga, the position of the devotees who are trying to follow in their footsteps in order to attain the same perfection, to the same, the same mood, or to love Krishna in the same humor, Prabhupada would say. So the details of that we'll find out later.
Thank you, Marj. And as a couple of questions around this. Could you please clarify the exact definition of eternal associate? Because hypothetically, aren't we all Nitya Siddhas in our natural constitution, the position, so we are also eternal associates? Or
The same question is being asked by Tulsi Priya. Aren't we being restored to a forgotten relationship, not that a new role is created for us? Yeah, this has to do with the nature of the spiritual world. There's no beginning there. There's no birth. There's no everything there is eternal. So we hear that someone goes to the spiritual world, and when you go, it means you weren't there. That discussion is there. Krishna says to Gopkumar, I was waiting for you for so long, now you've finally come. But exactly how this all works in a place where there's no time. Nimeshardhakyo vavrajati nahi atrapi samaya. There's no past, present, and future. Everything exists. Not a moment goes by. Everything is eternally present. So, what does it mean that we enter the spiritual world, or that we resume our position in the spiritual world? All these things are on a realm which is on a level which is way above our heads. And yes, there's an eternal form, there's an eternal role, an eternal everything. But how exactly is one restored to something which is eternal? All of these things have to be realized. There's Prabhupada told a story, and it'll fit. We have 4 minutes left. Prabhupada told the story that there were some children who never tasted jackfruit. And so they were asking the grandfather, what's jackfruit taste like? What does jackfruit taste like? And here in the West, also many of us have never tasted jackfruit. Sometimes we find jackfruit sabji. There's also ripe jackfruit, which is quite something. So he said, I can't tell you, you have to taste it for yourself. No, what's it like? What's it like? No, I can't. How could I tell you? You have to taste it. No, what's it like? Finally, he said, well, it's like sugarcane juice filtered through a Muslim's beard. Praveen gets that because he's in India. He knows what jackfruit is. But he says it's like sugarcane juice strained through a Muslim's beard. It means you can't really know. You have to go there, then you'll know. Atina has her hand up. Tulsi Priya has her hand up. Am I missing something in the chat box here? I see.
Marsh, just on this note, now I think I understand when we say, for example, that these are Krishna's eternal associates playing these roles. Is it essentially that these are their sarups? So, for example, when we say Bali Maharaj is an eternal associate of Vamandev, and Vamandev has his own abode in the spiritual world. So Bali Maharaj's sarup is actually Bali Maharaj, just like Prahlad Maharaj's sarup is actually Prahlad Maharaj. It's the same exact form and identity as he is.
Yeah, it's not a role like Indra. You could become Indra, you could become Brahma. These posts rotate, but there's a particular individual person who's Bali Maharaj. There's a particular individual person who's Arjuna. There's a particular individual person who's Nanda Maharaj, who's Yashoda Mai, who's Sridham, who's Sudam. So these positions we're not going to take, and we don't want to, take over take over their position. But the mood of the devotees is to want to serve in the same spirit, to serve in the same line. And there's don't worry, there's ample opportunity, Krishna. provides, he reciprocates, yeyatamam prapadyante, tamstataiva bhajamyaham. It's not like the material world where, you're just an outsider and grumble. In the spiritual world, everyone's fully satisfied. There's no envy. There's no one who feels, I couldn't make the grade, but maybe I could still push her out and get that spot. Everyone's fully satisfied. So let's go. Speaking of going, we've reached 8 o'clock. So I think we will stick to our time. This evening, they're having a Nityananda Trayodasi program on the Tawako channel, the same channel that we're using Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And Yashoda Dulal is speaking this evening. So if you'd like, you can move over to that channel and catch some Nityananda Prabhu Katha. And and thank you all very much indeed. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Nityananda Prabhu, all glories to the assembled devotees.
Jai.
Monday.
Hari Bol. Jai Maharaj.
Hi, Maharaj. Thank you.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Raj.
Haribo.
Hey, Nityananda Prabhu ki. Thank you.
Jai. Have a good event.